Hey YouTube, it's Petey Two Finger. We're going to be talking about tremolo whammy bars, everybody's favorite accessory. Happy New Year! Woo, hoo, hoo, hoo. These are most of these are Chinese. These two are eBay specials. Typically, you can get a whammy bar for around $5 shipped. 5 to 15 bucks for a whammy bar. They've got 5 millimeter thread. They've got six. These are sixes. They have push-in Wilkinson types. They have the type with the little cap that screws down. Floyd Rose, direct insert. Uh, there's no shortage of tremolo arms. Now, one of the things you'll run into if you science tremolos is the shortened tremolo arm syndrome. This is something Dave Gilmore of Pink Floyd uses these shorter tremolo arms. He claims it gives him more control, gives him a finer range to operate his tremolo in. And when I first read about that, I thought, that's interesting. I'm going to try chopping one of my tremolo arms down because I don't like a long arm. I like it shorter. And I found this is something I really like. I like the shorter arm as opposed to the longer arm. Now, part of this video is going to be talking about this guitar. This is a Squire that I got and refinished and put cheap Chinese parts. It's a parts caster. And last night I put a brass block, a tremolo block. It was 26 bucks. The company that makes it is called musicily. Musicbilly. I forget the name, but it's the musicily 36 millimeter 10.5 millimeter string spacing tremolo block. And this was a drop in. It claimed it was a drop in replacement, and it wasn't. The hole for the tremolo arm where you screw it in did not line up, and it wasn't like a deal breaker, but I did read other people say they had to take a drill to it and offset the pre-existing hole a bit to make room for your tremolo hole to line up. So I haven't played this guitar yet through our amplification system. I played it last night and I noticed immediately the guitar resonant, like the vibration that I felt when I played this guitar was significantly less with the stock zinc tremolo block. Now, we weighed it. I had pictures, but I don't have them on me. I took pictures of the scales. The zinc block was 69 grams. The musically brass block, gee, that's a big word, was 274 grams. So it's considerably more heavy, which does add weight to the guitar, but that's okay because it adds to the sustained playability, stay in tunedness supposedly, and the tremolo. Like everything gets improved when you beef up your block. It's just becomes a better instrument. So that's my mini review for musicily 36 millimeter shorty tremolo block, the brass block. It's for the MIM, made in Mexico, or import. It says it works for Squires. And it does work for Squires. This is the tool that I used. I started out with this bit here, and then I actually went up to this. And then I used a round file just to soften the edges. To deburr. I wasn't, sweating. I just cleaned it up a little bit after using this. And We did this last night at like midnight, and it was like about an hour. It was like about an hour worth of work to cut the strings off the guitar, remove each saddle, and what I did, I counted the threads. I have this screwdriver and I put some dum-dum on the end of the, to act like a magnetized screwdriver will grab your screw. This has some rubber gum in it. Well, I formed that to a peak, and then I could see every time I made one revolution, I could see this thing coming around, and I would count. So I counted the turns, and I also looked at it. I looked at the, it goes like, from the low E, it's kind of like you're going up the stairs for 3 strings. Then it drops down, and it's equal with the low E again, and then it's going up the stairs again, about the same. That's kind of what you're shooting for, to ballpark it. And because I counted the threads and looked at it, when I got done, I tested the intonation, and I was close. I had to adjust 2 of the strings, the A440 and the B, which I tuned to a C. I use an alternate tuning because I'm missing 2 finger tops on my fret hand. I only use my pinky and my index. So if you're curious about what that sounds like, there's all kinds of live music. Check out my Hokum album. Hokum is an album I recorded this year. It's an acoustic album. You can find that on this channel. So chopping your tremolo arm, shortening your tremolo arm, this is something that people do because they read about Dave Gilmour doing it. And I got to tell you, for me personally, once I started with the shortening the trem arms, I'm like, I have no idea why they make them so long. Like, really, they should all be short tremolo arms. Now, there's a company called Calham. They make shorty tremolo arms. This one here is from, I think it's my Ibanez. I have an Ibanez that kind of looks like Steve Vai's guitar, but it doesn't have the monkey grip. It's a 350DX, so it's a cheaper, like $400 Ibanez guitar, but it's a really nice machine. It's a beautiful guitar. It has a Floyd. This is the tremolo arm for that, and this is about as long as I like to go. This one is like, to me, it's a well-made bar. It's got a real nice curve to the tip. You don't need a plastic tip. And I really like this. Like my other favorite guitar is a Fernandez Sustainer guitar. And it has a similar arm that I really like, and I would never feel the need to chop those. But if it's a Strat, oh yeah, I'm chopping them. And my Fuji, I have a Steinberger Spirit. This is that tremolo arm that I chopped down. Now, how I will do it, the first challenge that you run into is removing these tips. So these are like $5 tremolo arms. Happy New Year. You get these off of eBay or AliExpress, and they're under $10 shipped for these. Sometimes you can get a 3-pack for like $8 shipped. You can get 3 of these. Sometimes you can get like 2 of them, and they'll send you 3 tips of different colors. I don't like when they have the seam around the tip in the middle. I really don't like that. And if they do, I will use an emery board. And I will lightly try to take that down a little bit. Although there is finish on these, and you end up chewing it up a little bit, but that's really nitpicking, you know. To me, it's better to have a little grip on there. And when you remove the tremolo arm, you'll notice on some of these that there is a 1/4 inch section about an inch back from the end of the arm where there is a row of raised splines. And the idea behind that is that these splines will keep the plastic tip from sliding off. And when you chop your tremolo arm, that's the piece of the arm that gets removed. So then when you replace this plastic tip, it spins and pops right off again. So you could put some epoxy, you could put some glue in there, super glue, automotive epoxy, JB Weld. You could put a little piece of tape on it. And I find just like the width of the fuller end of a pencil lead is about 3 millimeters. That you can picture the width of that, a little strip of tape about a 1/4 inch long on the end of the arm. So I'll put a piece of masking tape on there, and then I'll use a razor and cut it down so it's small, and then put the cap on, and it won't spin so much then at that point with that little bit of tape on there. So looking it up, I couldn't help but notice a lot of people saying stuff like, hit it with a hammer, like how do I want to cut my tremolo arm down, but I'm pulling and pulling and pulling on this tip and it won't cut off. How do I get it off? And there was people saying hit it with a hammer, people saying use a razor and cut it off. They're only $3 on eBay to replace those. What's wrong with you? Why would you waste time? Just smash it. Well, if you heat up the tremolo arm, if you apply heat, so you can use a hair dryer. This is good to have a nice glove. This is a dollar store thick rubber glove. These work really well. My wife got the tip off for me last night. I was working on breaking the guitar down to put the tremolo block in. So I said, hey, would you do me a favor? Use the embossing tool, which is a glorified hair dryer. These tools are about $10. They have 2 settings. The good ones do. And they'll have 1 and 2 setting, which 2 is really hot. 1 is hot. What, like 1 is hotter than a hair dryer, and 2 is about to set some stuff on fire. So we use this when we do any electronic work. We don't use electrical tape anymore. We graduated to heat shrink tubing. And yes, I'm well aware of the fact that you can just use a lighter or a candle or a match to shrink your heat shrink tubing. And this brings me to a point. If you are the type of person who gets frustrated and says, why don't you just anything? Well, I'd suggest you look on the right and find some other videos to watch, because that's not really recommended for my style. Like, if you can go one way and do a shortcut, or if you can go the other way, it takes a little bit longer, that may provide a better result. Guess which way I'm going to go. I'm always going to make the bigger deal out of it and do the method that's going to take a little bit more effort, a little bit more work, because in life there are no shortcuts. If there is a shortcut, you're going to find that you're going to pay for that later. And with heat shrink tubing, what happens when you burn it is it wasn't designed to be exposed to that temperature. You're overheating it, you're burning it, and it gets hard, it gets brittle, and it fails. It can also cut you. I don't like having anything inside one of my builds that's going to open me up. So that being said, the embossing tool is a great thing. I've been through a few of these. We tend to find these at resale stores, so I pay like $3 for them. And I dropped a couple and broken the ends. I've worn one of them out, but this one has 2 settings on it. And last night, my wife was using a glove. And what did you heat up? The metal part of it?
Yeah.
She didn't melt the plastic. She just heated up the metal. So you were applying it like about an inch below.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right
in
about
here.
there, yeah.
And then after it got warm enough, about how long would you say you applied it?
Oh, I don't know, it was a while, and I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna shut it off and see if anything happens.
So she ran it for a while, which was probably 2 or 3 minutes, and then used the glove, and it came right off. And then you'll see there'll be that 1/4 inch, about an inch back on the steel, there'll be a 1/4 inch row of splines. And that's where you cut it at. You cut it right at that, right after that. So in order to cut the tremolo arm, we laid it down on a kitchen chair, and I carefully applied masking tape the long way, and then horizontally. 1 here, 1 here, and 2 on the back side. So I really taped it up, and then we went in with the jigsaw. We put the proper medium steel blade and went right through it like butter. After we cut that, it's extremely hot, so you don't want to burn yourself. The piece that fell on the floor, you should be wearing gloves. If not, let that piece sit there for a minute before you pick it up. And then you're going to want to take a file and just soften up the edges where you made the cut, because it's razor sharp. So you soften that up, put a little piece of masking tape on the end, cut the sides off of that masking tape so it's about 3 millimeters wide. 3 millimeters is the thickness of 3 dimes. If you stack up 3 dimes, that's 3 millimeters. So it's less than a 1/4 inch, you know, about 1/8 of an inch. And you can put as much tape as you want on there, but then when you put the cap on, it's gonna cause problems. It's gonna mung it up and slide it. If you do what I'm saying and you only have a centimeter by a 1/2 centimeter strip of masking tape on the end of the bar, the tip will go right on, but it won't come off. It provides about the right amount of support. And then you're good to go. Now, I do like to wrap. What I do, I'll put the, like on this one, there's 2 pieces of heat shrink tubing that are higher up. There's a thin piece of heat shrink tubing and a thicker piece stacked at the top, and that fits in the slot. There's a slot before it's threaded, and this just gives it some support. So there's no... A friend of mine was telling me, in order to, how he likes it set up is with wobble in it. He doesn't like it tight, and he said that was Jeff Beck's secret, is having a lot of play in the whammy bar. So everyone has their own preferences and different ways that they go about doing this. I like to wrap Teflon tape. You see this white stuff? That's plumber's tape. So you can keep this roll of plumber's tape. It comes in a blue plastic thing. It's like $1 for a roll of this thin tape. And when you unroll it, it kind of sticks to itself. There's no adhesive on it. It's just Teflon. It's like a strip of like plasticky feeling Teflon. And you'll cut about 2 inches of that and then wrap it. You want to wrap it clockwise, I think. Clockwise around the threads, and then when you screw it in, it'll be snug. There won't be as much play in your tremolo. If you're like me and you like it to be able to move a little bit, but stay where you move it. You don't want it going like that. Like some people like that, where it goes down and then when they need it, they'll pick it up with their pinky. I don't like that. I don't like that. I like it to be able to be. I use my tremolo arm if you only use it once every while at the end of the song to do a dive bomb or something. But if you're using it, you're not going to want it to be having to be pulling it up constantly. I mean, maybe that's not a big deal. Like I said, everyone has their own preferences. But for me, the way I like it set up, I like it set up where when I move it, it stays. Well, you know, it's not hard to move, but when I move it, it stays where I want it. So that's chopping tremolo arms. That's my way that I do it. My way is not the right way to do it. It's just the way that I've become comfortable with performing that task. And life is a path, life is a journey. I certainly don't know. I haven't arrived at somewhere. I'm up on the mountain. I'm up here talking down to you. No, that's not it at all. I have cut a dozen plus tremolo arms. So I've done it that many times. So I've learned a little bit along the way, and that's why I made this video. I made the video when I went and I saw people talking about destroying their tremolo arm tips. Plastic is one of these resources that we don't really want to be throwing it away so much. And I know that sounds funny when people consume so much plastic and just just throw it away. But for me, that's just the way I like to do it. If I can get away with removing it without damaging it and then reusing the original one, I'm always going to want to do that rather than mess around with something that's probably a little different. The replacement is not going to be the same. You know what I mean? So that's just a way that I'm looking at it. It certainly isn't that I'm at some pinnacle, that I'm some tremolo arm cutting master. Not the case at all. I'm a goof. I'm a hack. I have my own little quirky, weird ways of working that usually tend to take a lot longer than someone who really knows what they're doing or a pro. And I'm fine with that. For me, the process of it is just as much fun as using it. So I'm not in that much of a hurry to get through the process of the modification because this is part of the fun for me. I want to enjoy the work. I want the work to be really fun. I don't want to be arguing with my helper. My wife helps me. I want us to get along and to enjoy it. So that's kind of where I'm coming from. I hope this was helpful. I'm sure you probably either you don't know anything about this or you do. So I'd love to hear either way in the comment section. You guys take care of yourselves. I do apologize for running the air conditioner. It's still 76 in here. What can I say? It's a hot one here in Chicago. Take care of yourselves. Hug your pets. That's the important one. And peace.